welcome to Channel 44. I am Masiga Shebusembatia to bring to you this afternoon's news in brief live here on Channel 44. We'll start with what's happening in Africa. In neighboring Tanzania, at least 5 people have died in northwest from an unidentified illness, according to officials. 7 cases have so far been reported in Kagera region, and the authorities have dispatched a team of doctors to diagnose the disease. Health authorities in the East African country have described the illness as strange. Its symptoms include fever, headaches, fatigue, and nosebleeds, according to government's chief medical officer, Taimani Nago. She asked residents in the area to remain calm and avoid contact with infected people. In July last year, more than 20 cases with similar symptoms were reported in southern Lindi region. 3 people died from the outbreak. Investigations later identified the disease as leptospirosis, also known as Wales disease. In Europe, Russia's forced deportation of Ukrainian children to areas under its control amounts to a war crime, according to UN investigators. The UN Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine said there was evidence of the illegal transfer of hundreds of Ukrainian children to Russia. The Commission's report is categorical that Russia also committed other war crimes in Ukraine. They also include attacks on hospitals, torture, rape, and willful killings. Ukraine government figures put the number of children forcibly taken to Russia at 16,221. In the Middle East, Israeli forces have shot dead 4 Palestinians during an undercover raid in the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank, according to Palestinian officials. Israel's military said troops killed 2 militants wanted for terrorist activities and a person who tried to attack them with a crowbar. They also exchanged fire with gunmen. The Palestinian Health Ministry said the dead included a 16-year-old boy. Another 20 Palestinians were wounded by gunfire, 4 of them seriously. Israeli raids in the West Bank have become increasingly deadly since the start of the year, with both gunmen and civilians killed as a wave of deadly Palestinian attacks targeting Israelis has continued. More than 80 Palestinians, militants and civilians have been killed by Israeli forces, and on the Israeli side, 13 people have been killed in the Palestinian attacks, all civilians except for a paramilitary police officer. Yesterday's operation in Jenin saw special forces from the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, Shin Bet Security Service, and Border Policy enter the city center in the middle of the day. Poland will send 4 Soviet-era MiG fighter jets to Ukraine, becoming the first NATO country to send planes since Russia invaded last year. Polish President Andrzej Duda said they would be set in the coming days, with others handed over in the future. Though a welcome boost to Ukraine's air defense, the extra jets are not expected to be decisive in the war. The Deputy Speaker of Ukraine's parliament, Olena Kondratyuk, said she hoped more countries would follow. Other NATO countries are considering sending the Soviet-era planes which Ukrainian pilots are trained to fly. And in North Africa, armed forces in eastern Libya said they have found about 2.5 tons of uranium ore that were reportedly missing by the International Atomic Energy Agency. 10 drums containing the ore were found near the border with Chad, and that was a report that the head of the forces media unit released. The IAEA said it was actively working to verify the media reports. The agency sounded the alarm after a visit by its inspectors earlier this week to the undisclosed site. The area was not in government-controlled territory. Uranium is a naturally occurring element that can have nuclear-related uses once it has been refined or enriched. The uranium which went missing could not be made into a nuclear weapon in its current state, but could be used as the raw material for a nuclear weapons program, according to experts. In December 2003, under the military ruler Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, Libya publicly renounced nuclear, biological and chemical weapons. But since Colonel Gaddafi was deposed in 2011, the country has been divided into competing political and military factions. Several cities in northeast Brazil are suffering from serious unrest caused by marauding criminal gangs. For the third night, gang members set buses ablaze and carried out gun attacks on buildings in urban areas in Rio Grande do Norte state. The attacks are thought to have been sparked by conditions in jails holding gang members. Brazil's government sent hundreds of federal security forces to the region earlier this week. Security and Justice Minister Flavio Dino said hundreds more could be sent in the coming days as unrest continues. The state government has convened a crisis cabinet and has asked the federal government for more support. Moving on, police in Paris have clashed with protesters after the French government decided to force through pension reforms without a vote in parliament. Crowds converged on Place de la Concorde in response to raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. The plans had sparked 2 months of heated political debates and strikes. Finally, Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne invoked Article 49(3) of the Constitution, allowing the government to avoid a vote in the Assembly. That decision was taken minutes before members of Parliament were scheduled to vote on the controversial bill because there was no guarantee of winning a majority. And countries that mistreated Ukraine will be held accountable after the war ends, according to Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. In an interview, he said the choice every nation made following Russia's full-scale invasion will be taken into account in building future relations. He also warned delays of Western weapon deliveries would cost Ukrainian lives. In a wide-ranging interview, Mr. Kuleba also discussed how he believes the war will end, the role of China in the war, and his disappointment that Pope Francis has yet to visit his country in wartime. And finally, in Asia, China's President Xi Jinping will travel to Moscow next week to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to officials. The Kremlin said they would discuss a comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation. The visit comes as Beijing, an ally of Russia, has offered proposals to end the war in Ukraine, to which the West has given a lukewarm reception. Western countries have warned Beijing against supplying Moscow with weapons. Beijing's foreign ministry said Mr. Xi will be in Russia from 20 to 22nd of March at the invitation of Mr. Putin. Well, that brings us to the end of this afternoon's news in brief. Thank you for watching Channel 44. I remind you that today is Friday. We are having a miracle overnight here at the Miracle Center Cathedral. We've had special encounters in these overnights, and you do not want to miss it for any reason. Come if you're sick and you want to be healed. Come, bring the sick, bring all those that need the hand of God upon their lives. They will not remain the same again. We have dream interpretation during the overnight. We have great praise and worship, hours of praise and worship, and ushering us into the presence of God. Your life will sure not remain the same again. Pastor Jessica Kayanja is coming up next with the lunch hour program that is aimed at boosting us and lifting our souls into the presence of God. Stay tuned to Channel 44, and God bless you.